G'day guys and welcome back to another One Piece deck profile. Today we're actually going to be not having a deck profile by me. We're going to have a very special guest by the name of Rob, who topped at the most recent Oceanic Regionals in Sydney with Black, Yellow, Luffy. Ended up coming 10th, which is absolutely an amazing achievement with the deck and that lead out. We're going to hand some time over to Rob. He's going to run through the list. He's going to talk about some strategies, some things he might change, and his matchups for the tournament. So the time is all yours, Rob.
So we'll start off with, I guess, the most basic part of probably the whole deck. Everyone will run these. So you go your 4 babies of each one. So you got 4 baby Luffy's to start off. Then we go the 4 baby Aces. And after that, we go into 4 baby Sabos, which is very standard again. After that, you've got your bigs or whatever you call them, I guess, the 5 costs. So you got the 4 Aces. You have the 4 Luffy's as well. Then after that, you've also got the 4 of the 5 cost Sabos. There is also the 5 cost Sabo from the structure deck. However, I personally, at the moment, and at least for this tournament, thought that it wasn't really a good idea to run it, just due to the effects of it and the way that it I feel like slow up the build in a way that wasn't really best for it. Past that, we go into more so your searches. So I ran the 4 of the Garps. I just found it as getting a 1k, like a 1 cost 2k body on the fields, like at least useful, even if you're just putting 3 dot underneath it and just swinging for face is always good. I only ran 2 of the 1 cost event searcher. I just found that running any more of that, I'd clog my hand up too much with unnecessary stuff that I don't really have a way to get. I have ways to get rid of it, but nothing that I guess you're trying to maximize what you're getting rid of, even just trashing with your leader Luffy effect or the Sabo effect, I guess, as well. Makino, run 4 of, perfect. It's essential for it, really. You need ways to get rid of your life if your opponent isn't going to hit your life, which, look, I was pretty lucky for the tournament. People hadn't really figured out just yet on what they have to do with the deck and how to play around it. So I had a lot of people that I'd verse into where they just keep hitting me, and which obviously, if you know the deck well, that's perfect. That's great for us. But Makino, just in case you have any bad situations where, then they realize, oh, I'm not going to keep taking life because I'm just going to struggle. You go, all right, perfect. Play Makino, 1 cost, take 1 life. And then you also get to reshuffle your other ones, which, it does open up some other plays, which I'll talk about shortly. But just at the very base of it, it's just, that 1 cost 2k is perfect. It's like double use. Then I run 3 Hiyori. I didn't want to run too many of her just because I feel like it clogs up your searches. And plus, you don't need too many 2Ks when your leader's already going to be, 9K most turns. But again, she's just another real way where she works like Makino, where you can just take that life and really keep your combos going and really get access to that big thing, which is your combos. Next part, again, another 2K. I run 4 of the Satori. I just felt like he is a really good little idea to go into. Obviously, the ability to, use that trigger if you do need it is perfect. It does mean that you have to crunch a card, but look, getting a 5k body on the field when potentially the opponent wasn't ready for you to have that is massive. If you can get that early pressure on your opponent, it means that you dropping something like a Sabo or, a Luffy, they then are under so much pressure and they're facing down a 9k leader, which is just massive. They can't really play into that easily. It's going to be a lot of pressure on them. And again, being a 2K, perfect. You know what I mean? Next, we'll go over the Gecko Moris. Look, every build I've seen runs 4. I think 3 was perfect. I think if you're seeing 4 of this guy, you're probably going to lose the game anyway. And I felt like 3 was just a perfect number that meant I could still find him every time. There was almost no games where I didn't find him. And I think if I didn't see him till later, it wasn't the end of the world. By the time that I was seeing him, it was the time that I needed him. You know what I mean? And even if you don't see him, I've won games without seeing him on sim and stuff like that in person, whatever. Obviously, he's a great thing to have, but I feel like if you draw 2 of him in hand, it's a lot worse than having none of him, personally. So that's him. And then I guess, look, this is probably the main flex spot for the deck, I feel like at the moment, at least, before EBO1 and OPO7. I run 2 Shirahoshi. Again, a trigger. Gives you, honestly, the effect. Being able to trash 2, draw 3, it's a way to reshuffle the hand. And just really, you keep being able to search. I guess a search in a way, you know what I mean? Because you're able to dump some of your 5 costs, which you want to do. Especially if you have, aces in hand. You dump that with this effect. And then you're drawing more cards, which could then be another searcher or it could be something else. Could be, your geckos. You might get into the geckos that way. I just found it really useful in that way. And finally, probably the thing that I've seen most that people don't like or don't want to play is the Borsalino. Personally, this was my biggest saving grace in the whole thing. Like having the ability to feel so safe and have, a Sabo on field that's protected all my other characters, and then I drop this guy as well. Perfect. Like it means I can stall till late game, that then I can activate my, well, I guess not late game, I guess probably more mid game, where I can start activating my combos, start getting my leader effect off. I'm hitting with 9k bodies. I've got this Borsalino on field that can't be KO'd. And look, I versed a few Sakazukis, and it wasn't fun no matter what, but I feel like the deck almost, like getting rid of this guy won't make you win against Sakazuki. If anything, this just helps you hard win against Geckos and Katakuris and stuff like that, which I guess is the ultimate goal. You want to win the games that are easy, so that then you've got more mental space to, beat the games that are a little bit harder and a bit more drawn out, and, you've got to really think about everything. Besides that, look, I guess the key thing with this is, and I guess a little smart thing that I was thinking about going into the day, I guess before the day when I was trying to work out what to play for it, the leader effect specifically says that it can be a 5-cost character that you can put into your life. So I guess that's where I was thinking, well, what if there's and it happens so many times in the day, where I'd have a situation where I didn't have any of these in my hand maybe, and it happens, you don't get access to things or whatever, you whiff on a search, crazy stuff happens. It's math, it's chance, whatever. These can then be used to put into your life to stall for more turns at very least. Like if you can have one of these in your life and a Satori in your life, that's now, that's 2 more, and that gives you 2 life that you weren't expecting. Obviously, it sucks because you don't get to get 2k extra on your leader or 4k extra on your leader, but it delays, it gives you that extra chance, you get to rethink. The opponent then wants to try to get rid of maybe a Satori off the field if you've got one of those there, or maybe you've got like a Borsalino sitting on field that obviously gives you another turn. It's just all those little bits to delay that really give you a chance to get to that point where you can start to fire off and obviously push for game. Yeah, I'd say that's the main thing with the deck build, and I guess like the main little points. There is a lot of, I guess, matchup specific things which really are so key. Like going into Sakazuki, you really it's such an uphill battle no matter what. And I'll go into my like specific matchups, what I had on the day in particular. But just overall, Sakazuki will, and I guess going into formats of OPO7, it's going to be a hard game against blue decks in particular, and anything that can bottom deck versus trashing. I guess for people who don't know, this leader needs things in the trash. If you don't have your 5 costs in the trash, or even I guess with Gecko effect, if you don't have your babies in the trash, you can't play them off Gecko effect. And then if you don't have 5 costs in the trash, you can't then really use this effect to its best ability. You still can play these from hand, but you want to be maximizing everything so that it doesn't really lose that hand advantage that you're going to gain from taking early life. I guess now going into matchup specific things. So for the day, I ended up going X2, which was very lucky. I went into the top 16. Unfortunately, lost out in the first round and finished 10th overall. So first up, I had a very good game against a Yamato, very aggressive. He was playing not the Wano build. He was just playing like the Sky Island build. So very, very aggressive way to start off the day. Felt pretty safe, but still had to be thinking, because that deck can always just flick a switch and they power on, and then you're kind of trying to chase back everything at the last little second. But no, was able to win in the end. Just kept playing Borsalinos, kept playing Sabos, just kept powering up my leader, so that if he wanted to try to swing for my life, he had to go with everything. And I think the only way that he maybe nearly got me in the end was with a Cody Jones that he dropped very late in the game. But unfortunately, I just had too much hand advantage and was able to counter out of it very well. And then, ended up with the first win of the day. Next, we moved into a few Geckos on the run. So we had back-to-back Gecko Warriors. Really good players, but again, just being able to drop these 2 guys, like, if you can end up with 2 of these on board with one of these, or 2 of these in one of those, massive. Like 2 Borsalinos and a Sabo, they're not getting past you. They can't KO anything. What are they going to do? They can't get over a 9k leader either, because, well, they don't have enough. They need to drop Geckos, which they've only got 4 of. They can't drop too many to get that sort of, I guess, steam to really smash into you. And I found into those Gecko games, a big thing was playing this guy, then playing a Borsalino active, and then playing a baby rested, and then using leader effect, trashing like, either just one of these from hand or like an ace from hand, and then using the baby effect to play one of these off life, which then gave me a Sabo on field, 7k leader, a Borsalino, and a Gecko Moria. You know what I mean? It's just such a massive thing where really, if you think about the numbers, it's so hard to hit into for the next turn. Even when you're on, 10 Don, you don't have enough resources to build up your board and then be safe for next turn, which next turn we probably build up our board enough that we're going to be a 9k leader and swing for game potentially, versus them just trying to, I guess, really stay alive at that point. After the 2 Gecko games, we then versed a Reiju just before lunch, which we won pretty well. Look, the guy was really nice and awesome and everything, but unfortunately, I think it's just a hard matchup. They just couldn't see enough. I think if they get a judge at the right time, it can be quite lucky, and they can probably swing for game and get a bit of momentum going. But it's just that they really struggle with that power and getting that board advantage and taking over like such a big, strong leader. After lunch, we were very unfortunate to verse one of our friends, Redder. He's another Reiju player. We were both undefeated going into that game, but unfortunately one of us had to fall. Which, look, it was a really great game, and we both said that, we just want to play to our best together. We don't want to really leave anything out on there. We just want to give it our all, and we did, and it was a really great game. So I won that one, continued on. After that, my luck of not versing Sakazuki kind of ended. I faced the Sakazuki and somehow won. It did go into overtime. And look, luckily, I just played really smart, I think, there. And when it went into overtime, I was on 0 life. He took a while with his turn. I played my last turn, which was probably about a minute. It had a minute and a half left on the clock. It took it maybe maybe 50 seconds roughly. I just played my combos really quickly, ended up with my leader on, I think, 7k or 9k. I think I played the combos really smart and was able to keep 1 life still, but still ended up with my leader on 9k because I had enough in my hand already to play part of my combo. And yeah, ended up, time ran out. I ended up having still 1 life, as he wasn't able to take it with enough time. Due to overtime rules, I ended up winning the match because I had more life left than him. Which, yeah, was very, look, I didn't expect to win any against Sakazuki, but it was definitely a good feeling to get one over a Sakazuki player, and he was quite a good Sakazuki player at that. So it was, yeah, very fun game to play. Next, we moved into quite a hard run home. Look, we had another Sakazuki game. Unfortunately, he just did what Sakazuki's do best and just absolutely control the board massively. I just could not get any steam going. I drew quite well, but just really could not get anything going no matter what. You have to be so careful in those times not to put these out. You don't want to play your 5 costs too early. That's the biggest thing going into like anything with removal that's not KOing. You want to play them later just so that you don't have them be bottom decked. If all this gets bottom decked, we lose all of our steam. We can't get our access to our 9k leader, which really is our massive win condition. After that, we had a Gecko Moria, which we lost to, unfortunately. I think after the first loss, I think it was just a little bit of, after having such a long day and it being my first regional that I'd been to, I just didn't have that mental, mental strength, I guess, in a way, or mental stamina to really keep pushing on and pushing through those losses, which unfortunately we got another loss there to a Gecko, which I'd done so well at for the whole day. After that, we faced one more Sakazuki to end the day, which I was very lucky to get awarded a win due to some technicalities. After that, we moved into the top 16, which was very surprising. Was not expecting at all at the start of the day that I'd ever end up in a top 16 game, and it was awesome. Look, I versed the eventual winner of the day, being Elliot, and he was absolutely amazing. Like, I can completely understand how he ended up making the top, being the top of the whole regional for the day. He just played so well, absolutely flawlessly, and really just capitalized on any mistake that I made. Which, look, by that point, I really was quite worn out and tired, so I was making a few. But yeah, props to him. He deserved to win that day. Absolutely amazing player, amazing guy. But really, I'm so happy with this deck. I feel like it's perfect as it sits at the moment. Look, going into EBO 1, it's going to change probably a little bit. And then obviously with OPO 7, we get a few bits of tech as well. But I think for now, this is probably what I'll stick with, at least until those cards move in and some of the other decks get a bit stronger. Obviously, there is removal decks coming, such as Red Purple Law is going to be massive. We do also have Sakazuki going to get banned soon, which will change things as well. But I still think there's always going to be removal that's obviously bottom decking, and that's where this deck gets, I guess, its most damage dealt. That's where this deck kind of dies off a little bit, because if we can't get that recurrence and that resurrection kind of effect going, we struggle massively.
Now you mentioned EBO1 there just a second ago. Is there any cards that you would want to put in from EBO1?
Yeah. So probably the biggest thing that we get, and I've tested a little bit already, trying to work out what I'd add from EBO1. First thing, and I think it's the same thing that everyone's seen where has been played over in the West, is Flampe. So Flampe in EBO1, we get the 1 cost 2k counter, which also has 1k power, which isn't obviously, it's nothing massive, but it's still something. It's a body on the field. But on play, you may add 1 card from the top or bottom of your life cards to your hand. Then you draw a card. That's massive. That's already 2 hand advantage over your opponent that you're going to get. And at very least, late game, it's a 2k counter, which is just massive. Like having that extra 2k counter that would replace something like, your Satori if you don't want the extra, early early power to hit someone with, which, look, I think this guy will probably get dropped going into EBO1. And I'd say very likely Borsalino would at very most be played at a 2, which, look, most people will probably drop it. I think I'll still go 2 just because there's that presence of Gecko still around. Then there's also Viola, which I've tested a bit. I don't think she has a massive place in the deck just due to how her effects work. So she's a blocker. She's 2 costs, 0 power. She's a 1,000 counter, which is nice to have. On play, choose one of the following, and you either look at all your opponent's life, then return them in any order, which is a pretty cool effect. I guess similar to something like a category effect. You look at the opponent's life, you choose what order. You kind of get that idea of how the game's going to play out in a way. The second, obviously, one of those choosing effects, the second option is either obviously to look at all your opponent's life or to turn all of your life cards face down, which, working with the leader effect, you have your life cards face up. You don't get to activate the effects, and they get bottom decked if they would go to your hand. So if someone would swing at you, normally they'd go to your hand. Well, if you played Viola previously, obviously those would then instead go, they'd actually go to your hand rather than getting bottom decked, which is massive. If you don't lose those to the bottom of the deck, again, it's same as in going into the Sakazuki matchup, if they're going to your hand instead of to the bottom of the deck, massive for your recursion and just your whole play style. Another massive card, and I guess this is going to be huge with going into the red-purple law matchup. He has a very annoying card called Shiraya, and I think the biggest thing that's going to be important going against him will be the Sabo, the 5-cost Sabo that can KO. I wouldn't play much removal in this deck, but I think having something that can at least deal with those types of blockers is very big, because that card, for those of you that don't know, can match the power of one of our character or leader cards. So if your leader's 9k and you've just buffed him up with 2 Don, well, now that Shiraya is now going to be the exact same power. So when you try and crash into the leader, he drops a 1k counter and he's already counted out of your leader effect, like your whole leader effect, your whole attack. And you're not going to have any other characters on your board that are really stronger than your leader Luffy. In those situations, that's where I play the Sabo, the 5-cost 6k. He's a 1k counter. Pretty much his on play is you may trash 1 card from the top or bottom of your life, then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. I wouldn't play him at more than 2. I think more than 2, you're slowing down the deck again and you're just really taking away what it needs, as it doesn't have many flex spots. But I think a 2-of is perfect, and it really gives you that opportunity to get an extra, I guess you're going to whiff less searches as well, which is massive. But it just gives that opportunity to get rid of things that you might not want to have on the board, and lets you keep your speed up and swing at your opponent more. So I guess, going in EBO1, biggest things that we'd add is, I'd say 4 of the Flampe. 4 of the Flampe, I'd probably say can replace this straight up. So I'd probably remove the Satoris. And then going into the 2 Sabos, I'd remove 2 of the Borsalinos and add 2 of those Sabos. I've also been playing around with whether I want to keep the Shirahoshis. Look, I don't think I will, probably. I'd very likely take those out and add another Searcher in again. And then very likely I'd add another Hiyori, or if I'm feeling like it, possibly another Gecko, but we're not sure yet. That's really just, that'll come with testing, and over time, I think then we'll know whether or not it's going to be going to be necessary to do. But I don't think I'll play the Viola personally. I just feel like she's a little bit unnecessary. Like a very fun tech card, and look, there might be times where you could pull it out in a matchup and it'd be awesome. But I just think it's very, very matchup specific, and really we just don't have that much room to add that in.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that. That's a congratulations. It is a very big day, and Elliot is a great player. So going down to Elliot is not a bad thing at all. Do you have any shout outs or anyone you want to give a word to?
Yeah. Look, I honestly couldn't have done this without the store that I come from, which is HR Games in Beverly Hills. Look, I've never won a locals. I came into this day not expecting to do anything at all. Like, I was happy if I just got 3 wins and finished my day and, went off and hung out with my friends after and got drinks and dinner. But was able to pull off a massive thing. And yeah, I couldn't have done it without the support of my friends and all the store. Specifically Josh, Ali, Justin, Sam, Cass, Caroline. And there's so many more at the store as well, like Alex and a few of the other shop owners were all obviously there on the day and also back at the store supporting us. And yeah, just massive thank you to all of them. They've all beaten me so many times, and I really believe this could have been any of us. But I guess I was the lucky one to get through for the day, and yeah, just very grateful and very thankful, and can't wait for the next one.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rob. Thanks for your time, and hopefully we get to see you on the channel and topping some more regionals in the future.
Hopefully, can't wait.
Now, if you guys do want to catch up with Rob, if you want to follow what he's up to, we've got his Instagram linked in the description down below. Make sure you check that out. Thank you so much for checking out this video today. And once again, big thanks to Rob. Stay beautiful, guys, and we'll see you all in the next one.